Today we want to talk about 3 different treatments that we have going on here. So Chisholm, why don't you tell us what's going on in this section? What treatment is going on here?
All right, so I'll kind of start pretty much from the beginning.
Right here.
So anyway, in 2013, the merchantable timber out here was harvested in February 2013. After the harvest, in this section here, my dad actually planted some longleaf. I think possibly the winter just after the harvest, so in 2014, 2015 winter. And then since he was a one-man show, more than likely, planted some additional longleaf in 2015, 2016. In this area, we actually have probably around 350 longleaf seedlings per acre. And so since we had a decent amount of trees per acre and the competing hardwoods were not quite as many per acre, I decided to do basal bark spraying in this section using triclopyr in the ester formulation, actually mixed with a cooking oil at a 20% concentration. And so I did the basal bark spraying probably about 4 weeks ago. So some of the trees are beginning to show symptoms, but possibly.
So what can you expect from basal bark spraying? For those that are not familiar with basal bark spraying, you spray and then what happens next?
So there's a couple ways to control woody competition using herbicides. You can do a broadcast spray using a skidder or a helicopter or a backpack crew, in which you spray all the woody stuff during the growing season. So you have to cover the leaf area.
Because it's leaf active, you have to get it on the leaves for it to work.
Being able to get it on the leaves increases the efficacy, the effectiveness of the herbicides.
Makes it work better, yeah.
And so in this particular area, some of the trees are actually higher than I can reach. And since we had a good, decent amount of longleaf seedlings per acre and not too many stems per acre that I needed to control, I decided that basal bark spraying will be a more effective approach. So I did the basal bark spraying. You don't have to reach the whole stem. So, for instance, on this little persimmon, I think I may have sprayed it, but if you look at this point down, it looks kind of stained. And so whenever you treat stems using a basal bark spraying mixed with the oil, it almost looks as if you sprayed bacon grease on the trees. The herbicide will get in a candial layer.
Kind of see the line right there.
And eventually it's going to kill the tree.
Okay.
So what we're planning to do is, in order not to reduce the efficacy of the basal bark spraying, we are not going to burn this stand this year. We will burn it next winter, so that'll be the winter of 2020, 2021, and in that it'll further release the longleaf that we have in here.
Well, speaking of burning, are we ready to look at the areas that we did burn?
So in this area, we decided to do a prescribed burn. I guess it was a couple weeks ago.
This is the first one we've done. We've done, how many days did we burn? 3, 4?
Yeah.
3?
So today's
the first
date.
one.
So today's date is April the 4th, Saturday, April the 4th. And in this particular area, we have approximately about 600 longleaf per acre.
So almost double the amount over here.
Correct. And in this area, we had enough fuel to carry a fire. So it made more sense to use fire as a tool to release the longleaf that are in the what you would call the grass stage or young kind of rocket stage. So we burned this 2 weeks ago, I believe. And so fire in this situation was the most practical approach of releasing the longleaf. The thing with longleaf is that they are a fire adaptive species. When they first germinate, they're putting all their energy in the roots. And all of that is an adaptation to fire. So when fire comes through, it top kills everything else except the longleaf. And then with the longleaf having all of its starch reserves in its roots, is able to take advantage of that additional sunlight.
So what about the little ones here? I mean, even if they're brown, if people see their needles that are brown, and they're saying like, oh, they may be dead.
Well, you know, when we burned it in temperatures that were below 70 degrees, so whenever you're burning young longleaf in the grass stage, typically I recommend landowners to burn it in the morning hours before the humidities and the temperatures, humidities reach the lowest and temperatures reach the peak. So typically more of your morning hours up until about 1 o'clock is your best time to burn young longleaf. And so if you'll look, the terminal buds and all these are fine. So they'll begin to
That's what is
sprout.
known as the candle, right? The candlestick.
Yeah. And
So this one is like really,
yeah. And so the brown needles,
it's like almost a foot long.
the brown needles were scorched by the fire. But the good news is that, you know, a lot of the nutrients that are in those needles are being translocated within the tree. But these trees are, everything I've seen will be fine and take off. And if we have a good bit of rain here in the next month or so, these longleaves should increase in height by a foot or 2 feet before we know it.
So what about the area? What happened over here? Tell us about the treatment that we did to this area. So this is our third treatment.
All right, so in this particular area, we didn't have hardly any longleaf per acre. A lot of that in this area was also, you know, within that same clear cut in 2013. But this is a little bit more productive soil. Possibly had a little bit less longleaf per acre when it was harvested. So after the harvest, a lot of the hardwoods were essentially released from the stump sprouts. So if you wanted to create a longleaf forest in this area, you really need to control that woody competition at the beginning. And so in here, it made better sense to come in here and do a mastication process in which we use a skidder with a Felcon mulching head, and they went across the whole track approximately about 6 inches off the ground. So what we're going to do after you go through the mastication process, you want to allow all of the stump sprouts, the stuff that you cut out 6 inches off the ground, to re-sprout, have that leaf area, and then once they have that leaf area, hopefully it'll be approximately 1 foot high to 2 feet high. We'll come in here with herbicides, spray all the leaf area of the woody competition at the end of the summer. This will be the end of summer 2020. Hopefully we'll have enough re-sprout. If we don't have enough re-sprout, then we may have to do this in the summer of 2021.
Because again, you need that leaf area for it to be like the most efficient
to increase the efficacy of the herbicide.
Right.
Even though.
So how will you spray in here? How do you plan on spraying in here?
So more than likely, what we're probably going to do is have a backpack crew, and they will come in here and essentially do a broadcast spray. But instead of having a skidder with a boom or a helicopter, it'll essentially be some guys with a backpack covering the areas evenly with the spray wand attached to the backpack. So the time that you typically want to begin spraying herbicides as a site prep, this will be a site prep. So we're planning to plant this.
Prep everything for a longleaf site since it's not already a longleaf site.
It's a longleaf site, but we have to control the woody competition beforehand, and so that's the critical thing for longleaf, is that either you have to have fire to control the woody competition beforehand, or you're going to have to control that woody competition with herbicides beforehand. And when I say beforehand, I'm referring to before you plant.
Right. That's what I meant by a longleaf site. Like,
But,
you don't already have them planted.
But no, this site is definitely a longleaf site.
I mean, it's
there's
good for longleaf, right?
Yeah.
But they're just not out here yet.
Correct. So you're going to have to establish a longleaf out here. So if you pan the camera, you can see there's some remnant longleaf out here that were left behind during the mastication process.
Because you told the guy who was running the machine, you told him what trees to leave, like certain sizes that you want to leave.
Yeah. So
you gave him some guidelines.
Yep. So it wasn't necessarily a clear cut, and so what I just kind of quickly evaluating it, I gave him a guidance of leave all longleaf, and in addition to that, I also told him to leave all trees that are greater than 4 inches in DBH.
Okay.
So when I say DBH, I am referring to, DBH stands for diameter at breast height. So in forestry, we always measure trees at 4.5 feet above the ground. It's possibly, one of the most practical things in forestry, that we measure trees where we can actually get to them.
Yeah.
So those are the guidelines, that leave all trees 4 inches in DBH and above, and then also leave all trees that I flagged. So there were a couple ancient sparkleberries that were out here that, tell you the truth, looked like something out of Lord of the Rings. They're huge. I mean, they're 8 to 12 inches in DBH, and I flagged those as well, and they're a shrub, but I just wanted to make sure that he didn't take those out along with the other stuff that we want to control. So I am extremely pleased with the mastication process. If anyone's interested in finding out how to find a contractor to do that, they can contact you.
No, they can contact you.
And
you can contact me and reply to this video, and he can get you hooked up with them.
But I'm extremely pleased with the operation. It's going to allow us to do an herbicide site prep, plant longleaf, and make it really a more productive site for wildlife, timber production, and both of those really is what it's all about. And hopefully we can get this site more productive, that really it pays for itself, and at the same time provides us an opportunity to enjoy wildlife, gives us those aesthetic qualities that we all seek, and we'll be there. But it just takes a little while to get there.